Hello, everyone. Oh, good to see you can hear me. So in today's session, we want to have a brief touch point with two of the most prolific mega developers in the kingdom, as well as the operators who will invariably sit within them. So we'll be talking about luxury and whether or not the traditional nodes of sustainability are really compatible with luxury. So with that, I'd like to welcome to the stage Sebastien Carre, Group Head of Hospitality at Red Sea Global. Maria Pichon, the Director of Brand Development at NEOM Hotel Division. Stephen Ansell, the Managing Director of Middle East and Africa at the Hyatt. And Agnès Roquefort, the Chief Development Officer of Luxury and Lifestyle at Accor. Thank you. So yeah, luxury and sustainability, two concepts that don't traditionally go hand in hand. Perhaps before we delve in to exactly how these two concepts can go together, we can first talk about what is already being built. And to that end, Sebastien, perhaps we can talk first about the Red Sea. It's been a long time in development. You know, Turtle Bay Hotel came online, but that was more of a base for sort of consultants and people working within the development. But more recently, we've seen the Six Senses, Southern Dunes, the St. Regis, and I believe the airport is now, if not operational, at least partially functional. So how have your first few months been, and can you speak to, operationally how things have sort of evolved over the last few months?
Well, since the end of last year, a lot has happened in the Red Sea. Red Sea Global is developing, as you know, the whole project here. This is a phase before Amala. And the airport has been active already for, I think, 4 months. And then we now have, the first international flight that started operating in April.
Where from?
From Dubai, yeah. So that's obviously a milestone for the destination. Soon we have a Ritz-Carlton opening as well, next to the St. Regis. So, the properties are continuing to develop. We'll then have some Red Sea Global hospitality assets that will be activating immediately after, self-managed. So that's the part that I'm looking after. It's really trailblazing fast, and more to come. Yeah.
So that's one of the things. So Red Sea development is famously a luxury development. I mean, that's kind of the positioning that you've been going for. But I think as the project has evolved, I've been hearing more and more about actually sustainability and how the different initiatives have helped that end of things. So, is there some elements of sustainability that you can perhaps speak to and how they weave into the luxury experience?
Yeah, it starts with the vision that is, Vision 2030 is obviously very focused on this, and our Giga project is at the onset of planning and master planning, inserted scientists at the base and started developing a plan very early on, before even master plan, on how we're going to do this, do tourism right? So what you're seeing today is properties coming out of the ground which are really planned for, like the whole destination has been not only protected, but we're focused on regenerative tourism, with the intent of leaving the location better than we found it. And so there's a very strong vision about achieving 30% net positive on the maturation of the destination. Sorry, we've got some markers along the way that are helping us to measure our progress. The destination has achieved LEED Platinum. I think it's one of the first. It starts with very careful planning at engineering stage as we develop hotels, and making sure that they will be able to thrive and in a way that really is truly sustainable and enables us to also focus on the other part of regenerative tourism, which is support to community, education, and a host of other things that some of my colleagues at RSG are focusing on. That's actually a very good feeling to be part of something that is truly impactful. Yeah.
Okay, and from one developer to another, and I promise I'll get to the operators very soon. Just in terms of NEOM, I mean, there's also threads of sustainability that are, sort of weave through the identity of what what NEOM is, in terms of the environmental impact, regeneration, or offsetting the carbon footprint. Can you speak to these themes and how it impacts the development at NEOM?
Oh, absolutely. So I think to begin with, NEOM is so much more than sustainability. I think if we look at our development plan, the commitment is to only develop 5% out of the land mass and leaving 95% to nature. And this is really a key pillar to our development in the region. And I think looking at it from what we do in the nature region, and I think Dr. Paul Marshall leading that, just announced also HEMA, our rewilding project, where we have brought back 5 species that haven't been seen in NEOM for over 100 years. So it's 240 animals who actually have had 60 babies, a great sign to know that they're having a good time and living well. But looking specifically at hotel development, we're aiming obviously to achieve the highest sustainability certification and to our hotel asset to be LEED Platinum. So obviously for us, with the size of the region, we work very closely with our tourism sector, but also the various regions to ensure that we are committed and fulfilling the ambitions that we've set out.
And you mentioned that you're more than just sustainability. I think one of the themes that really pops out when you look at NEOM is technology. So would you be able to talk about how technology plays a role in the wider master plan?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think while I can't maybe specifically to sustainability today say exactly what that will look like, it will come in the very near future, some exciting project. I think for us is really, we have no legacy when it comes to infrastructures. We have the opportunity of really looking at what we can do from a technology standpoint. So working with partners both within the industry but also outside to create a foundation that is both flexible and adaptable. And then obviously in today's age, layer that with data analytics and predictive technologies to allow, obviously, for what we aim to be a frictionless experience in NEOM, but also allowing guests, and specifically in luxury, to have a choice, which we believe is really, really important.
Okay, I think we'll come back to some of those themes a little later. Agnès, for you, you seem to be someone who must spend a lot of time thinking about what the luxury guest wants. At least from my perspective, I would assume sustainability and responsibility, might be at the bottom of that list. Is that something that you've seen, or is that something that goes against sort of what you've seen in terms of your luxury guests?
So I'm glad, Ali, to say that I disagree with you.
Okay.
If you look, at the consumer data, the insights, Accor Luxury has delivered, released luxury consumer insights, and Virtuoso is confirming that as well. 75% of the luxury travelers say that they want to travel responsibly, and they are willing to pay for that. So, it's a major trend, and we can see how our luxury customers, evolving from, let's say, a day-to-day mindfulness to really a consciousness of their overall footprint. That means that they want to have, let's say, a positive impact on local culture, local people and economy, and on natural and cultural heritage of the destination. So there is really, it's a major trend that we can feel with the guests, with the luxury guests, but as well with our talents and with our owners, clearly.
So I'll tell you why I get that impression. So in this region particularly, I feel like there's a culture of luxury being about trying to get through that door, and the notions of exclusivity. But once you're through, it's all about abundance and opulence. And actually, I was having a discussion with F&B manager, and we were talking about what luxury guests want. And he was sort of telling me that yes, maybe they only want to eat 3 dishes at a buffet, for example. But if you give only those 3 dishes, it's going to be a problem. You have to give another 20 that they have no intention of touching for him to be satisfied, to feel like he's got his money's worth. And I think in this region, we fall into that trap a lot more than perhaps in others. So, to this point, do you find that this idea of abundance and wastage is sort of at odds with sustainability, and it's unavoidable when trying to provide luxury?
Again, I disagree with you. Happy to disagree with you. You know, last month there was a very good article in Forbes talking about opulence and, you know, the new luxury behaviors in all parts of the world, I must say. And the quote, which is very interesting, saying, luxury consumers are not looking for opulence that can be touched, but opulence that can be felt. You know, kind of human experience that lasts long after, you know, the pure transaction. And it's a strong belief that, you know, this luxury experience is more important than, you know, luxury goods, and that we can really deliver something that is exceptional and more respectful of environment, local communities. I will give you an easy example with buffets, you know, the breakfast buffets that everybody loves, that is as traditional buffets, really an illustration of opulence in our industry. So we, with the hotels, with the investors, we're going through more, let's say, local procurement, local sourcing, fresher food, but not only. More and more hotels are moving away from traditional buffets with a lot of food wasting, with a lot of opulence, to come back to à la carte, to bespoke, let's say, service. And so it's better in terms of food wasting and of ESG, and as well delivering a better experience that is long-lasting for the guests. So it's a different model, but we can find, you know, different solutions.
And I think that makes sense. I mean, I was looking through your 2023 sustainability report, and I think many of these themes were sort of touched upon, right? So they're talking about reduced carbon dishes was one. About technology regarding food waste. I wasn't exactly clear what that technology was, but you know, and about your target to reduce food waste by 60%, you know, and a water sufficiency plan. So is this? I'm guessing what you're trying to say is that, or what you're saying is that this not necessarily is at your main restricted to your main brands, but also you're having initiatives at the top end of the market as well.
Yeah, it's for all our brands, really. It's systemic, and really it's a strategy at the core of Accor. So you said it all. So I will add a few things. We have nature and people at the core of our ESG strategy, but it's part of our strategy at Accor as well. And with 3 pillars: stay, eat, and explore. For stay, it's really operating the hotel within the planet boundaries. So it means carbon neutrality, it means certification of the building with NEOM and Red Sea. This is exactly what we're doing. It's certification of our operation. So it's really improving the impact of tourism and hospitality into the environment. For food, you said it, we're fighting food waste, and we're using artificial intelligence to do it. So we have several partnerships with small startups that are able to measure and propose some concrete action to hotel to reduce by 60% the food waste in the hotel. And finally, on the explore part, which is very important, it's all about awareness. Awareness for our talents, for us, you know, to be conscious. And so we have a dedicated academy for ESG, School for Change, open for artists, for talents, but as well more and more open to owners to educate everybody and for guests. And as well, as I am in charge of development, it's really to accept to renounce to some projects that won't be beneficial to local communities and environment. So it's a change of mind as well for development. You know, before it was, I want to go to virgin lands. Now it's more conscious, but owners are following. So we are in this direction.
And Stephen, I think you have similar plans. I mean, you have plans to reduce food wastage by 50%, and there's certain other initiatives that the Hyatt has. Sort of, what is your view? I mean, is it an unfortunate consequence of the guest experience, or are you looking to sort of push the hotel experience in a different direction?
So, first of all, thank you for inviting me to the panel. It's actually my first official day in the kingdom, so
fantastic.
I'm on the hot spot. Agnès has mentioned similar things, of course, to what we are doing. What I can do is perhaps offer some operational insight into the rubbish that Agnès mentioned, to the food waste. We have also started similar implementations throughout our hotels. And I think what was really amazing for me was the curiosity of our chefs. which is perhaps counterintuitive, but they were most interested, and most recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was in a hotel that I was looking after at that point, and I walked through the hotel, and the executive chef took me into the office to show me the data of all the food waste on his computer. I thought that was a huge step forward. So it's not only about educating ourselves, it's also about educating our teams. And to some extent, we are bringing our guests on this journey. I think all brands are marching with this at the forefront. Hyatt is a purpose-driven company rooted in care, and care for the environment is obviously something that we take very, very seriously. And it's driven largely by the public. So, as Agnès mentioned, there is plenty of data to support the fact that our customers are choosing hotels now based on how they are behaving in their own environment. And not only that, our associates are asking, when you interview staff members, you often get the question, what is your ESG platform? What are you doing for the environment? So I think the impetus is moving all in the right direction. When I started in hotels many years ago, we had curious general managers that were going around looking at food waste in dustbins. So even then, the spirit had already started. That was maybe largely cost-driven, but I think now there are so many arguments to support such processes, whether it's sensors on water taps. Our Hyatt Regency in Orléans recently implemented sensors which resulted in a 30% saving on water last year. So it's simple measures that really, even in older properties, can make a huge difference to your impact. And we're most excited about our Red Sea development with the Grand Hyatt Red Sea and the Miraval. The Grand Hyatt Red Sea will in fact be relying on renewable energy sources right from the beginning. So,
well, I mean, yeah, so you pretty much jumped to what I was going to ask next. I mean, I've seen renderings of that, and it looks bananas. Basically, it's a very impressive structure. In terms of when you do ESG and when you're sort of designing sustainability, who leads that dance? Would that be you, or would that be input from the Red Sea, or how would that work?
Well, I think the best efforts are always collaborative, and obviously we have a whole load of best practices. In fact, in 2023, Hyatt implemented a ESG platform so that all hotels can report their data, which we can collect and share with all our stakeholders, which enable us to develop best practices. Of course, we rely on our partners also at Red Sea to guide us, and I think a lot of the decisions are made with one another. Obviously, the owners are investing, so without them, you obviously cannot really come to the table, right? So, and finally, we have a division, technical services division, that looks after this part of the world that are obviously giving advice along the way.
So yeah, that's a fair answer. And just in terms of going back to you, Sebastien, you have your own sort of goals and targets, and you mentioned earlier that you had platinum status under LEED, and you're the first developer in the GCC to achieve this. I would imagine that the reason why would be either it's very difficult or very expensive. Otherwise, more people would probably have it. So can you speak to what actually this means to the layman, and then how that changes your interaction with your requirements from these operators?
It is difficult. It's not as expensive when you fast forward, the positive impact that it will have. So I think taking that vision is important at the early stage of planning. I'm not the specialist, but it really is focused on construction and how engineering and new technologies are being applied to the construction process, and also the performance of hotels and assets in the future. So collectively, the construction teams and development teams of RSG are probably more, suited to answer the question. But we are very pleased to have achieved this milestone because it's already showing its benefits in our early properties, and of course, projecting to the 50 hotels that we're developing in phase one is again something that is very significant in terms of impact. One of which being the Grand Hyatt and the Red Sea destination, and other Hyatt properties as well. the whole development altogether will be completely off-grid, right? I mean, this is a level of ambition that I don't think I'm not knowledgeable really to the fact of that, but it's I don't remember in my lifetime seeing anything of that level of ambition on this scale. Developing, I think, the biggest battery storage, in order to make these solar farms work on such a scale, and it's again something that took a lot of vision and yes, a lot of investment, but. Fast forward, I think it's the right thing to do, and this is the way our investors are looking at it. Yeah.
Maria, I think you mentioned in NEOM you have similar ambitions to get sort of this sort of rating, and a lot of that is around the deployment of technology. On technology, reading through some of your literature, there's a lot of themes on being sort of human-centric or hyper-personalized. Maybe not how this will be achieved, but maybe you'll be able to tell us what exactly this means, because for the casual reader, they may not quite understand what these objectives actually, how they'll play out for the end user.
And I think just back to maybe what Agnès was referring to earlier, the luxury traveler today, and they're conscious and they're expecting us to know about that. And I think as operators, but more also from a developer standpoint and as an owner, as we're creating technologies, it's important to also not forget about the human element of hospitality and the fact of human connection. So how we allow technology to support that to take place in our hotels and allow that human connection to happen. But I think when we're looking at technology and the hyper-personalization and how we use data, it's important also for us that is a choice that the guests have and not something that we're imposing. And I think that's really important, looking in the luxury sphere of allowing the guests to have that choice. And I think, just to give an example, so with Habitas, who we've signed 3 assets in Lija, which is at the coast of Gulf of Aqaba, the core of their brand is human connection. But what they're aiming to do there is create this transformational journey through the 3 assets and allowing technology to support that to happen, but not taking away from the human connection. And I think this is really important as we're planning for the future and the advancements in technology that's coming.
So when you say human connection, is that between the guest and the hotel, or the guest and the destination, or like?
I think it can be that, and it can be so much more, because I think people can come to connect with themselves, they can come to connect with others. Equally, they can come to connect with the experience that the hotel is creating and the destination. So I think that's where that element of understanding what the purpose of the guest coming to travel is really all about, and using the technology to facilitate that to happen.
Understood. Yeah, and I think creating destinations and finding that sort of brand identity is one of the key challenges that these new developments have. Another challenge would be actually delivering them, and I think a lot of these are in quite remote locations. So just to go back to you, Sebastien, I mean, you've had to deliver a lot in a location that's very difficult to access. Have you found that to be sort of more expensive, or have you found that to be more problematic than sort of maybe something that was on island or more mainstream? Or have you found that you've managed to implement some infrastructure enhancements that may not benefit your initial phase but will make the development easier going forward?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of the question.
In terms of developing, I mean, you're in a remote destination, right? So it has its own challenges in terms of logistics and developing, and that has cost implications to it. So, how have you managed to overcome that? And are there some sort of infrastructure developments that you've put into place now that may benefit future developments in future phases?
Well, we are planning the logistics chain, and obviously economy of scale is going to materialize as we develop the portfolio. At the early stage, obviously, there's an initial investment, and as we build critical mass, these things will, stabilize themselves. There is a cost premium, of course, of locations at the beginning, but the assets development, the destination development is calculated and projected with a critical mass that's different than what it is today. There is inflation around by way of all those wonderful projects that are coming in the kingdom all at the same time on such a short period of time. For sure, it's creating a momentum for everybody and a lot of growth, and that comes associated with that. But I think it's spread across the economy. Yeah.
And for you, Stephen, I mean, as a hotel operator, when you operate in remote destinations, are there any sort of considerations or challenges that you face, not necessarily in the kingdom, but elsewhere? And how have you sort of managed that in your operating properties?
I mean, for all the obvious reasons, remote destinations create challenges with access to resources, whether they be food and beverage items, power, people, a whole range of different challenges await, depending on the particular destination. I think from our own experience, we've learned to work in many cases with the destination. We have an Alila hotel in Oman that has a farm-to-table concept where they, for instance, prepare all the, they're growing actually the vegetables and so on site, and then it goes straight from harvest to the table. So these are the sort of things that can help you to use actually your resources around. And just coming back to the whole thing of sustainability, I don't think this is a nice to have anymore. I think all countries are at different paces, different parts of the journey, but for those of us that have children, we know full well how much this momentum is growing. So it's a must-do. And we play our role in this too, across the board. Every day there are new ideas coming around that help us to reduce our impact. Right? Most recently, we're getting rid of plastic bottles in all sorts of our different destinations by having water refilling stations around the hotel. Simple things, but they make a massive, massive impact.
And yeah, sustainability, we've sort of circled back to that. I mean, Agnès, we talked earlier about sort of ESG initiatives and trying to make hotel owners want to do it. And I guess my question to you as an operator is, like, do you always have to have an ROI case? Or sometimes are you willing to push owners to do something that is sustainable that not necessarily would be beneficial financially?
You know, I think in 2024, the approach is different from ROI. Of course, you know, return on investment is important, but I agree with Stephen, is no more, should I go? Why should I go? Why should I embark in this ESG journey? But how? Now it's time for action, and we have the chance to have owners that now ready to move forward and that asking support about, you know, the different steps and anything, any expertise we can bring to ease their life and really embark together in this ESG journey. You mentioned it as well, so it's starting before ROI with, you know, saying, what will be the hotel I will leave to the future generation? What is the pride, and particularly in this area, in this region of the world, you know, having long-term Vision 2030 is a good illustration of that. It's really long-term, what we will leave to the future generation. Now, back to your question about ROI, because we have as well to have, let's say, reasonable investment. If you look at the different lines, and maybe to quote some of the insight we had during this panel, if you look at the top line, you know, not only there is a guest preference for, let's say, hotels that makes efforts in favor of ESG, but if you're looking, for example, at Accor strategy, corporate and leisure, you know, accounts all over the world, 3/4 of them have signed ESG, SBTi commitments. So we have to be with them as well, to be sure that we can provide, let's say, ESG compliant hotels. If you look at staff, very important, if we want to have talents in our hotels, we have as well with them to answer the question about what are your values, what is your long-term future vision. So ESG is an opportunity for that to attract talents. Energy, so maybe not a hot topic here, but we were afraid of, in Europe, it was a huge topic, energy. So now we are able to give owners, you know, energy efficiency program to really reduce their costs dramatically, and that is key. So very good ROI. And finally, I would say investment. In some parts of the world, and I had, let's say, a meeting last week with an owner asking Europe, how are you doing, you know, with your interest rate? What is the feedback of your lenders? And he answered me, you know, my bank asked me more questions about how my ESG investment than about my capex return on investment. So again, financing, there is a strong trend, a strong move. So being ESG compliant, making efforts and investment give you access to lower cost debt and all in all to an asset which is more valued. So pretty convinced that it's going beyond pure ROI. There is a strong conviction now that we have to move forward.
Wow. Yeah, no, I've never heard that. So that's quite surprising to me. And I guess that's why, Maria, just going back to you, I mean, that's why you as a master planner who has this identity has to be so selective with your operators, ones that sing from the same hymn sheet, in a way. So I mean, you've signed with the Raffles, you've signed with the Ritz-Carlton Reserve, you have some other deals. I guess, are these implications part of the decision-making process when choosing a partner?
So for us, alignment with the vision is exceptionally important. And I think we have this blank canvas and looking at the industry and making sure that we're pioneering in elements that are going to be important, not just in the imminent future, but also long term. So looking at the landscape and talking about legacy and what we're leaving behind, who do we work with that obviously become a partner who's equally passionate about the values and can help us drive the industry forward? So it is key to how we're selecting our partners. And you mentioned, obviously, we are very pleased to have signed with Raffles for Trojena, and Ritz-Carlton Reserve was announced last week, who can bring this to the destination and help us as a destination, but also as an industry to move this forward. We have a lot more announcements coming. They're lined up, and we're really excited about that. But it is key to us that all our partners are aligned with our ambition and what's key for NEOM.
Fantastic. And I think we are going to run out of time quickly. Rather than getting chased off the stage, perhaps it's better to give you all sort of a final word. So maybe we can start with you, Sebastien, and work your way up. I mean, just in terms of key takeaways from our meeting, I mean, I think we talked about sustainability, the dichotomy between delivering luxury and being sustainable. You know, what do you want people to remember about sort of the Red Sea development and sustainability walking away from today's meeting?
Probably that very ambitious goal, when planned with equal amount of ambition and passion and dedication, come to life, because they are coming to life right now in very impactful ways. We have some of our partners here for whom we're building hotels, managing our own as well, but it really is transformative what is happening in the kingdom, and on a scale and at the speed that I don't think has been achieved before. So that's what I think we should all focus on. It's doable, it's feasible, and it should be done.
Thank you.
I think from my end, what's really important is that we are developing and we're building, so we can do it right from the beginning, and it's not an afterthought. So it's really, really important that together with our technical services team, the design team, and the operators, that we really think of this from the very initial moment, and therefore build for that sustainable future, and that our hotel asset can deliver on that promise.
I think one of the biggest takeaways is not only is this a must-do, but it makes economic sense in the vast majority of cases. And I think by collecting all the data that we're doing now at Hyatt, we are consistently seeing this. But it's simple. I mean, imagine if you reduce your food waste by 50%, that has a direct cost saving, and the technology behind it is really rather simple. It's not a general manager's pair of eyes. It's a camera that sits on top of the dustbin and measures how much goes in, and gives you ideas and plans your menu appropriately so you can reduce it. So in all the cases, or most of the cases that I've had the opportunity to discuss with owners, there is a clear financial motivation to embrace this, apart from anything else.
And maybe to repeat myself, I think ESG is not, again, about why, when, but now about how, and how we can make it all together, how we can make the guests feel proud of traveling responsibly, but in style, with a luxury appeal, and all together with owners, with investors, be proud all together of what we're giving to the future generation.
Fantastic. And yes, I think right on time, we've come to a conclusion. I thank you all for your attention, and I see probably Jonathan's in the wings. I'll hand you back to his capable hands. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much.